Some of my first memories are just him shaking my toe at the end of the bed, waking me up to go play hockey. You know, you'd have to go get up at 5 in the morning. And he was always psyched. Babe was my nickname. Get up, babe.
As Blake Allen grew older, he realized he was raised by a hockey legend, a proud son of the architect of the Broad Street Bullies, who was also a husband of 65 years to wife Joyce.
I think they were so just swept along with hockey. They were busy all the time. The team was always, you know, traveling, or there was a function, and they were winning, and they were young, they were having fun. And we were kind of along for the ride, you know. And as he got older, I think he mellowed. This is a song that I wrote when Dad was still around, and it's called When Mom and Dad Were Young.
Blake gravitated more towards guitar picks over hockey pucks. He married into a family of musicians and artists, but was always inspired by his parents.
1948, April 21, was wedding bells and promises, and Mom and Dad were young. As I saw him get, you know, him and my mom getting into their 80s, you realize they're not going to be around forever. A noisy card game in the living room when Mom and Dad were young. I actually gave it to them for their anniversary, which made my mom cry. So we moved to Philly and Dad became a king when his Flyers won the cup against Boston. Man, we thought the time was endless when Mom and Dad were young. As he got older, he appreciated more what I did musically. He listened to it once, he goes, I like that. so which was cool. When older cars were driven, when older songs were sung, was a golden age to live in when Mom and Dad were young.
And in the final years before he passed away at the age of 90, Keith Allen's life struck a different chord with Blake, and he swapped out his songs for his stories.
When you're writing songs, it's like writing in a phone booth. There's 3 minutes, the beginning, the middle, the end. It's got to rhyme. You know, songwriting's hard. Whereas I think story writing, there's just a lot of room. You can stretch out, you can edit, you know. You can edit songwriting too, but there's just so much space.
So he wrote a book entitled Son of a Thief. It's a collection of 45 stories just waiting to be published. There's one on how Keith had his name engraved on the Stanley Cup, even though his playing career spanned just 28 NHL games. Or, as general manager of the Flyers, how some of those trades were actually made at the family dinner table.
My brother is a real hockey genius, Brad. I mean, he's been around it since he was born, and he knows every draft pick that's ever come out of every draft. And my dad, I think, really relied on Brad, because back then you didn't have an assistant GM, and you had to bounce ideas off of somebody, you know? Brad helped him through the years, you know. He was probably should have been on the payroll for a while there. It's not just rote sports stories, and it's definitely not stories that have been told before. I tried to make these new stories in case there was fans or, you know, whoever wanted to hear something new, you know, something from Keith's perspective or from my family's perspective. You know, old-time Flyer fans, I think, will love it.
And a book that would have a father tell his son, I like that.
Jackfish Lake in summer, swimming in the sun. 2 kids began a story, and Mom and Dad were young.
John Borick, Comcast Sportsnet.